The sample tested positive for Ebola. All the other Congolese family members have been identified and are in isolation at Bwera Hospital.
The Ministry of Health says blood samples taken from a 50-year-old grandmother and a 3-year-old brother of the deceased have also tested positive for Ebola. A rapid response team has been dispatched to Kasese district to identify, monitor and provide assistance to health teams in the area.
The Ministry of Health, WHO and CDC will undertake ring vaccination of contacts to the case and other non-vaccinated frontline health workers, as well as other workers beginning 14th June 2019.
On the 1st of August 2018, the UN World Health Organization declared a new outbreak of the Ebola virus disease in the DR Congo. The disease has since killed close to 1,400 people and infected hundreds. However, with the new confirmed cases, the situation remains tense along the Uganda-DR Congo borderline.
We have informed our teams to heighten their activities and screen every single person who is arriving. We have been doing this previously in the last 8 months as part of the preparedness since the Ebola was declared in the DRC.
The Ebola virus is a severe illness that is spread through contact with body fluids of a person with the disease. Symptoms can be sudden and include fever, fatigue, muscle pain, persistent headaches, and a sore throat. Uganda has previous experience managing Ebola outbreaks, and this time round, the Ministry of Health is prioritizing community awareness and education to contain the spread of the disease in the country. Michael Balekesi, GTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Joining me now for further analysis of this developing story is Innocent Komakech. He is the emergency officer at the World Health Organization. Innocent, thank you for taking time to join us here on Africa Live. First things first, how worried is the World Health Organization about the movement of Ebola infections into Uganda from the DRC? Innocent?
Yeah, thank you very much. Uganda is one of the countries that receive very high inflows of travelers from the DRC. Every month, about 800,000 people travel into Uganda from the DRC for various reasons, including common services, trade, and also others flee because of the situations. And this made the country to initiate a large preparedness action over the last 10 months. The preparedness actions have been able to keep hold the transmission of Ebola into the country over all this period. However, over the last 2 days, we have been able to see new confirmed cases, and yes, the large inflows continue, and unless the situation is controlled in the DRC, the Uganda will remain vulnerable to a transmission of the infection. Yeah, so that's what I can respond to this.
Well, as mentioned earlier, this is highly distressing news, to say the least. What do you think should be done, Innocent, to ensure the deadly virus does not spread further into Uganda?
The country has prepared extensively over the last 10 months, and since the declaration of confirmation of the outbreak, all the technical pillars have been activated, and all the technical teams have been deployed to the affected sites, but also to the districts that are considered vulnerable. These are districts that have direct border link with the DRC. There are districts that are connected by road, and the districts that trade directly with the DRC. So all these have been alerted, and they have stepped up their preparedness. But in Kasese, where the confirmed outbreak has been identified, there has been response, and WHO is supporting actively the Ministry of Health to bring this to a close. There's a treatment center now at Bwera where the cases are being managed, and the medical workers are working tirelessly to ensure that the patients get treated and the best treatment that they can receive, but also and then there are also response within the communities to be able to control the outbreak. As you know, the war of Ebola is not won in the boardroom, it's not won in the health facility, it's won in the community. And the responders are putting a very high effort to ensure that the community drivers are identified and the gaps addressed so that the outbreak can be controlled.
All right, Innocent, again, thank you for that insight. Innocent, but can you go into detail about what kind of assistance, effective assistance, the WHO is extending to Ugandans to help it deal with its first cases from the current outbreak in the DRC?
On the side of WHO, we have been able to deploy a team of skilled experts. We deployed 5 yesterday. Additional will be deployed in the coming days to start up the early response. We have been able to provide the supplies that are required to be able to manage the cases so that we can improve the patient outcome. We have been able to order for vaccines and bring them in country so that the contacts that are from the confirmed cases are vaccinated in any case so that they do not develop symptoms, and also the contact of those contacts are also vaccinated. And we are helping the district to heighten surveillance. Now, as I speak, our top leadership is with the Ministry of Health in the field to make a fact-finding mission to ensure that all the gaps that that could impede response is identified and addressed. So as WHO, we are working. We are working. We are helping the ministry to mobilize the financial resources that is required to control the outbreak.
Well, Innocent, other neighboring countries in East Africa now face an elevated risk of getting Ebola cases. How can they ensure that the deadly virus does not cross into their territories?
Yeah, because of the complexity of trade and travel and the international health regulation that requires countries to ensure that there is no unnecessary restriction to trade and travel. Every country should ensure that they make preparation and that their internal surveillance systems are up to date to be able to identify the first case. We might not avoid getting the first case, but we should have systems that can allow us to identify the first case and address them. And all countries should ensure that they prepare all the technical requirements for case management, for surveillance and response, and effective teams that can investigate the cases and manage them. In this way, they will be able to control the outbreak. And I know that many countries are already in good speed on this, but we need to step up. The risk remains. For as long as the outbreak is not controlled in the DRC, it is likely that yes, a few of the cases will be able to move to other countries, because most of the countries also have very porous borders, and so it will not be possible to control. But the effective internal systems will allow quick interruption of transmission.
Innocent Komakech, thank you for sharing your perspective on this story with us. Thank you very much. Moving on now to Sudan, where talks are set to resume between the Transitional Military Council and the Opposition Declaration of Freedom and Change forces. Since Sunday, Sudanese protesters have been taking part in a nationwide civil disobedience campaign. This comes after the opposition coalition called for a general strike in response to a military crackdown at a protester camp in Khartoum. Much of the country has been shut down ever since, and at least 118 people have been killed over the past few days. The Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has stepped in as mediator after weeks of negotiations broke down between the two sides. Abiy flew into the Sudanese capital Khartoum on Friday and held separate talks with both parties. On Tuesday, the Prime Minister's representative, Mahmoud Darer, announced that the ruling military council has agreed to resume talks and will release political detainees. Separately, the opposition has said that they will halt the civil disobedience. Both sides have agreed not to make statements that could delay negotiations or undermine Ethiopia's efforts.
There is no going back from what was agreed upon. I repeat, no going back from prior arrangements that were made in the past negotiations and discussions between the parties. Where the Presidential Council is concerned, negotiations will continue in goodwill and in the same spirit initiated by Prime Minister of Ethiopia. There was a visit to our brother country Sudan by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy Ahmed. We consider this great country of Sudan as a neighbor, and we also recognize the historical heritage that binds the people of the two countries together.
In Algeria, former Prime Minister Ahmed Ouyahia has, along with other senior officials of the Government Investment Agency, have been summoned to a civil court in the capital, Algiers. They are being investigated for corruption in a case about granting concessions to an auto company owned by a business magnate in Algeria. The country has seen a wave of peaceful protests since last February the 22nd. They are demanding accountability for those involved in cases of corruption and bribery within the government. A number of businessmen have been brought to justice for their involvement in the looting of public funds.
The recall of the former Algerian Prime Minister to the Supreme Court as an accused is a significant change in the course of the campaign against corruption in Algeria. This measure will add a lot of credibility to the authorities in Algeria, especially because the protests have not yet calmed down.
I think that Ahmed Ouyahia's summons will have more political than legal implications, as he is a symbol of the regime of outgoing President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. As a political journalist, I wait for more details and information that may be revealed during his trials.
The African Union has condemned the killings in Mali that left at least 95 people dead at a Dogon village. It says everything must be done to identify the perpetrators of Monday's killings. Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
Among those killed in the Mali ethnic violence are children. The attackers killed animals and also burnt down houses. 19 people are reported to be missing. The AU Commission chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat has described the violence as despicable. He says everything must be done to identify the perpetrators of the attack and bring them to justice. The recent killings in Sobame Da in Mopti region comes less than 3 months after more than 150 people from the Fulani ethnic group were reportedly killed by those from the Dogon. Violence between the Fulani and Dogon is adding to an already dire security situation in Mali. Part of Mali harbors the Al-Qaeda and ISIS militants. The UN has over 14,000 troops and police stationed in Mali, a mission it has ranked as one of the most dangerous. Coletta Wanjohi, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Well, time now for a short break. Here's a look at what's ahead. President Buhari pledges to lift millions of Nigerians out of poverty as the country marks its first Democracy Day. And delegates from across the continent gather in Egypt for a series of anti-corruption meetings.
For lucrative economic details of the country, the country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Perina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives. News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has led celebrations in Abuja to mark the country's Democracy Day. This is the first time the day has been marked on this date of June the 12th, which stands as the new official date. A number of leaders from the continents gathered in Africa's most populous nation to celebrate the day. The country gained independence in 1960. May the 29th had been celebrated as Independence Day each year until changes were introduced last year. Military parades and performances were a part of the festivities. President Buhari pledged to build on the successes of his first term.
With leadership and sense of purpose, we can lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years.
The 12th marks a significant day in the history of Nigeria's struggle for democracy. Africa's most populous nation is also commemorating its longest democratic rule without military interruption since independence in 1960. CGTN correspondent Philly Haza tells us more from Abuja.
June 12, 1993, Nigerians took part in an election that many still believe to be the country's freest, fairest and most peaceful. Chief MKO Abiola won the most votes and declared himself the winner. But the military government at the time annulled the election, claiming irregularities and jailed him for treason. The military wanted him to renounce his own victory, but he remained defiant and was kept in detention until he died 5 years later. It wasn't until 1999 that Nigeria's military handed over power to a civilian government. Since then, the country has seen 4 presidents elected in 5 polls.
I didn't think that this checkered democracy will survive till this day. You will recall that in the West, permutations were made to the effect that Nigeria would not survive until 2015. It was topsy-turvy, but we got past it, and now this is another experience. We are recording success.
The Vice President and I...
In June last year, President Muhammadu Buhari declared June 12th as Nigeria's Democracy Day in honor of MKO Abiola. But it hasn't been plain sailing for the country's democracy over the last 2 decades. There have been ethnic tensions as well as corruption and electoral malpractice. And Nigeria continues to face high levels of insecurity, poverty and unemployment.
Whichever day they choose, as in maybe May 29 or June 12, the most important thing is just for us to enjoy the dividends of democracy.
I hope the current president will take a clue from Abiola's struggle so as to deliver a good governance to the people.
It's a thing of joy. Democracy has lasted for 20 years. I think Nigeria is making progress. So I think we should, for the fact that democracy has come to stay in Nigeria, it's worth celebrating.
President Muhammadu Buhari swore a new oath of 4 years in office last month. His promise to improve the lives of over 200 million citizens, as well as tackle corruption and uphold the rule of law.
As Nigeria celebrates its maiden official Democracy Day, many Nigerians are urging leaders to encourage coexistence despite ethnic, religious and social-political divide, so the country can celebrate many more June 12th. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
And in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa is under investigation by the country's anti-corruption watchdog over a $35,000 donation to his election campaign. According to the Office of the Presidency, the public protector has given Ramaphosa until the 21st of June to respond to the allegations that he violated the Executive Ethics Code. The inquiry against the South African leader centers on opposition complaints over a payment from a company facing extensive graft allegations. That company was called Bosasa, but now it has been renamed African Global Operations. It won huge government tenders under former President Jacob Zuma's tenure, and in November last year, Ramaphosa had promised Parliament that he would pay back the campaign funds. Meanwhile, Egypt is hosting a series of African anti-corruption meetings. The talks aim to encourage African nations to engage with policies and programs that help eradicate corruption. Here is Adel Al-Maraki with more.
For 4 days, Egypt's resort city Sharm el-Sheikh will be hosting the biggest 2 African anti-corruption gatherings on the continent. Justice and Interior ministers will join heads of anti-corruption and auditing agencies, creating the biggest pool of knowledge sharing in the first African anti-corruption forum, as Africa tackles one of the biggest obstacles for its development.
Most African countries suffer from one form of corruption or another.
It's a major obstacle to the continent's 2063 vision. Corruption in the continent is a huge problem. The meeting should help form the second anti-corruption strategy, which is scheduled to be announced for the period between the year 2019 and 2022.
The forum addresses numerous issues, including continental and national efforts, challenges like capacity building and human resources, and the role of civil society and the private sector. Egypt wants to take a leading role in the continent's fight against corruption. Cairo has vowed to offer some 250 scholarships for African calibers as a tool to spread its experience in this field.
Egypt has set its own anti-corruption strategy. It is now in the stage of implementing it. Egypt has a lot to teach in its decades-long of fighting corruption and the challenges it faced during the past decade. What Africa needs the most is to be able to abide to transparency, which will definitely have a significant impact on corruption.
The 2 days forum ends on Thursday and will be followed by the 4th annual general meeting of the Africa Association of Anti-Corruption Authorities on the 14th and 15th of June. 200 experts from 51 African countries are set to engage in these talks.
The African Union dubbed 2018 as the African Anti-Corruption Year, giving last year's summit the title of Winning the Fight Against Corruption. The continent realizes that it's going to be a long fight. It's why Egypt is putting a huge emphasis on the importance of these meetings, as it doesn't want Africa to lose momentum in this crucial file, which is standing in the way for Africa's development. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
China and Africa have enjoyed a long history of cooperation in the health sector. The presence of Chinese medical teams is now a common feature in most sub-Saharan countries, where they have been saving the lives of tens of thousands of people. Since the 1960s, the Chinese government has been dispatching medical teams to Zanzibar every year. The 28th Chinese Medical Aid Team is currently stationed in the Nazi Mojo Hospital.
Here, whether it is delivery or surgery, all the patients are so grateful. Since the 1960s, the Chinese government has been dispatching medical teams here and will continue to guard the health of our African friends on these small islands.
The World Day Against Child Labor is being marked this Wednesday. It puts a spotlight on the vice to help prevent the exploitation of children globally. According to a 2017 survey, about 43% of Nigerian children aged between 5 and 10 are said to be engaged in child labor. CGTN's Brian Toussaint reports.
At a busy roadside in Nigeria's capital, Lagos, child workers flag down motorists to sell bread. Among them is 13-year-old Anna, who works after school hours to support her mother, Sherifat.
Anytime we want to go and sell bread, task force will be disturbing us. But we cannot stop because we need the money to eat and to take care of ourselves and to further our education.
Sherifat believes there is little or no choice other than to send her children out to raise enough money to buy food and send them to school. They live in poverty without any social support system.
I don't have money. That's why we are just the money to sell all those things to support me, so to raise them up. So that's why they are used to go and sell bread in the nest. So after coming, we will manage the money to cook food.
The International Labor Organization estimates about 72 million child laborers between the ages of 5 to 17 exist in Africa. Children in Nigeria are said to engage in the worst forms of the practice, including working in quarries, the sex industry, and armed conflict.
It's something that the government really needs to focus on in terms of their feeding, in terms of their education, in terms of their clothing. But if all of this is not catered for, that's why you see them on the streets.
In northern Nigeria, the issue is most rampant. This is because young boys who leave home for Islamic education often turn to working or begging for their upkeep. 15-year-old Muhammadu Goni washes cars to keep himself off the streets.
At the end of the day, I make about 700 to 800 naira, and that is how I am able to feed and take care of myself.
Officials are hoping to step up efforts in order to bring an end to the growing practice. Brian Toussaint, CGTN.
Meanwhile, with one divorce reported every 4 minutes, Egypt has one of the highest divorce rates in the world. It is estimated that more than 40% of marriages end within the first 5 years. The country seeks to create marriage classes as prerequisites for all couples before they tie the knot. Our correspondent, Adel Al-Maraki, has more.
The entire nation is moving to cut divorce rates, and it appears one solution is being favorited here in Egypt: pre-marriage classes. Religious institutions like Al-Azhar and Dar al-Ifta have made the initiative. The government then followed with a program called Affection. Even Parliament has been discussing a law to make these classes a prerequisite for marriage.
We believe that our current divorce rates are a threat, and as a national institution, it's our duty to get rid of the excessive divorce rates. Our course is just a projection. It's like a rehabilitation center for those about to get married. We discuss psychology, sociology, character profiles, fertility, and birth control.
Hundreds of young men and women have graduated from these 12 sessions pre-marriage courses. With the tuition fees of only $5, they are made to be affordable for all segments of society. The classes aim to educate those to be wed about the expectations of marriage life and how to deal with common issues before tying the knot.
The course attracted me a lot because it doesn't focus only on religious issues. There are interior designers and psychiatrists involved to give advice of many aspects of living with a partner. There's science behind the curriculum. The closer I get to getting married, the more fearful thoughts arise. I'm currently single. Still, I want to be prepared when the time comes.
Classes are designed for couples to be. However, divorcees have also found it an excellent opportunity to make better choices before they remarry.
I'm about to get engaged, and I believe this course will help me avoid any mistakes. I've had a previous family, so my next marriage won't be easy. I came to gain experience from lecturers and other participants to learn how to make things work out.
We've created a unit to preserve the unity of the Egyptian family. We are getting positive feedback on these courses. Our first had 60 students. Now, the class is 120.
These courses also work as an affordable substitute for marriage counseling. They appear to be appealing for many who fear to be among the 44% who ends up getting divorced within the first 5 years of marriage. It is still too early, though, to measure the impact these courses have on the staggering divorce rates in Egypt. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
You're watching Africa Live on CGTN. We now go over to Penina with the latest business news. Penina.
Thank you, Richard. And coming up in business news tonight, Fairtrade USA to increase the floor price and fixed premium it requires companies to pay cocoa farmers. And civil society groups in Uganda oppose a plan by a South African firm to develop a power plant on the River Nile.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Fairtrade USA will increase the floor price and fixed premium it requires companies to pay cocoa farmers under its certification system. The increase is designed to improve livelihoods in a sector that has long grappled with farmer poverty, child labor and deforestation. The non-profit will increase its minimum price for conventional cocoa to $2,400 per ton from $2,000. For organic cocoa, the price will be $300 over this minimum or the market price, which whichever is higher at the time. The new pricing structure will take effect October 1st this year. The 20% increase in prices puts Fairtrade USA in line with the minimum set by Europe-based Fairtrade International in December. Critics in Uganda have taken to social media to oppose a plan by South Africa's Bonin Power and Energy to develop a 360-megawatt power plant on the River Nile. They say this could have a negative impact on the popular tourist attraction Murchison Falls, located between Lake Kyoga and Lake Albert. The announcement by the country's Electricity Regulatory Authority indicating an applied permit for a feasibility study on the project has since stoked outrage. However, a definite decision on the project has not been taken, and a review of the application would take public criticism into consideration. The Republic of Niger and the African Development Bank have signed a $128.8 million financing agreement to support its Kandaji project. The scheme is intended to support regeneration ecosystems and development of the Niger Valley. Implementation of the program is expected to take 6 years. It involves the completion of a multi-purpose dam that will create a development hub in Tilaberi. Financing includes a $65.1 million loan, a $49.7 million grant from the African Development Fund, and a $14 million loan from the Transitional Support Facility. Ethiopia and China have a strong strategic partnership, and according to Ethiopian officials, the Belt and Road Initiative is expected to elevate the already strong ties to a new height of mutual development and trust. CGTN's Grum Chala tells us more.
It was in the early 1970s official relations between People's Republic of China and Ethiopia began. Since then, the last 5 decades saw nothing but remarkable growth of diplomatic, economic and people-to-people ties. Ethiopia simply has confidence on China.
Over the last 1 year, China has supported Ethiopia's newest administration and dedicatedly worked to prevent the rollback of the Ethiopian economic growth. China's relations with Ethiopia is not only robust, but it is also timeless. The Chinese government has continued its support, and today it is the only country practically which made the biggest support to the Addis Ababa River Development Project.
Ethiopia is also one of the front-runner supporters and participant nations of the much-anticipated Belt and Road Initiative. Addis Ababa firmly believes its economic visions will immensely be boosted by the Chinese initiative.
Our industrial parks are expecting investments from different foreign countries, and through the Belt and Road we expect to have more Chinese investment to take part in the overall development activity of our country.
China is the #1 trading partner to Ethiopia, also is to the rest of the African continent. So the Belt and Road Initiative is expected to build on the already created strong partnership in all sectors. China has promised an action-oriented initiative that delivers tangible outcomes, and Ethiopia is on board to embrace a brighter future with Beijing. Grumjala CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
One of the clearest signs of the growing relationship between China and Africa has been the increase in the number of airline routes opening up between the two. This Wednesday, the first direct flight from Changsha, capital city of central China's Hunan province, landed in Kenya's capital Nairobi, operated by China Southern Airlines. Uche Okoronko with the details.
15-hour transit times at a price tag of not less than $1,000. That is slowly becoming a thing of the past as the trend of Chinese carriers flying direct to Africa picks up pace.
Thank you very much. Let's applaud.
China Southern Airlines just launched the first regular direct flight from Hunan province, China's intelligent manufacturing hub, and Kenya, one of Africa's busiest business and tourist destinations. And that's dropped airfare prices to between $200 to $800 per ticket. Now, this new route will currently service passengers flying between the city of Changsha and Nairobi. It offers about 2 flights each week on Wednesdays and Sundays with a flight duration of about 11.5 hours. The airline says that this A330 behind me has already brought in about 231 passengers, as well as goods such as clothing and farming machinery. It will be carrying back to China mainly flowers and coffee from Kenya.
Changsha is the southern part of China. And also it's an industrial area whereby a lot of business people can go there for machines and all the industrials. The plan is, as we just started, so we are going to see how it is going to go, because as for now we have a flight departing today to Changsha, and also we have a good number of passengers going there. So we are going to see the number of passengers flying to Changsha from Nairobi, and that will determine if we are going to increase the flight.
This new route is an important one. Currently, over 120 enterprises from Hunan are invested on the continent. Goods that are bound for Kenya from Changsha and vice versa previously had to transit via Guangzhou. The province also has economic and trade cooperation agreements with Africa worth billions, many supported by the Belt and Road Initiative.
Actually, it's interesting because looking at an inaugural flight and the number that we received already today, a total passenger portfolio of 230 passengers arriving, it explains the kind of anxiety and interest that is already building up. People have a lot of interest in exploring new business opportunities from Hunan province. Traditionally, we have been really connecting with Guangzhou and other southern cities, so this is a new really opening for business and the exchange of cultures.
The route also opens up right on time for the launch of the first China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo, which will be held in Hunan province in June this year. A total of 53 African nations and over 3,500 businesses are confirmed to attend so far. The airline says it is already seeing volumes of about 8,000 people per month on its China route, and it expects that number will increase fast, as it also explores more code-share arrangements with partners like Kenya Airways. Uche Okoronkwo, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
The Brand Z Top 100 list has been revealed at the New York Stock Exchange. It presents this year's most valuable global brands as ranked by market research specialists. Some familiar names are on top, and more Chinese companies are making their presence on the list too. CGTN's John Terrett reports.
The elegant Freedom Hall inside the historic New York Stock Exchange. We're all here to find out which companies top an influential ranking of the 100 most valuable global brands for 2019. But first, I need to work out what a brand actually is.
To me, a brand really has meaning, and I think that is, for me, the essence of a brand, is that it stands for something.
A brand is something that evokes a feeling, a loyalty.
The brand is the reason that I will actually stand up and say this is something that stands for me, it's something I can relate to, and it's something that speaks to who I am.
The event, the Brand Z Top 100, is hosted by advertising giant WPP and Kantar, a data consultancy. This is 2019's top 10 on screen. As for the top 3 places, well, down 2 to number 3 is Google, behind second place Apple, and a brand new Brand Z number 1, Amazon.
Only 14 years ago, 2006, can you guess how many Chinese brands were on the ranking? Only 1.
This year, it's 15, including Alibaba at 7 and Tencent at 8 in the top 10, and 4 newcomers too. Haier, the home appliance maker, Didi, the ride-sharing company, Meituan, a food delivery firm, and Xiaomi, which makes consumer electronics.
We need strong brands, so we are very excited to see that more and more Chinese brands are successful in and beyond China.
This year's special guest is Haier's chairman and executive director.
We believe brand strategy is extremely important for a company that wants to scale.
David Roth, the master of ceremonies, says the 15 Chinese firms in the Brand Z 100 are now uniquely placed to promote not only their own brands, but brand China too.
In exactly the same way as in the 60s and the 70s, when American brands started to go global, they brought with them, right across the world, the images of Americana, Coca-Cola, McDonald's. And I think in the same way, Chinese brands have the opportunity to help define what brand China is outside of China.
The total value of the 2019 Brand Z 100 is $4.7 trillion. But no matter how eye-popping the numbers are, the industry knows that maintaining a strong brand depends on one key element: customers.
We are very glad to see the Chinese brands are building their relevance and meaning to the consumers and providing better and better products.
And no doubt you'll be seeing all these brand logos on supermarket shelves, in bus shelters, and during TV commercial breaks the world over. Meanwhile, I'm doing some branding all of my own, from our company jacket with the logo on just here, to my brand new baseball cap just in time for the season. John Terrett, CGTN, New York.
We'll leave it there for now, but later on Global Business, the first African Anti-Corruption Forum kicks off in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. We'll have the details for you live from Cairo. That's at the top of the hour. For now, back to you, Richard.
Thank you, Penina. This is Africa Live on CGTN. We've got so much more wonderful and amazing stories coming your way. Here's a sneak peek at what's ahead. We'll tell you about an Egyptian delicacy that is almost a must for tourists to sample.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Egyptians take their falafel seriously. Perhaps it's because their version is unlike any other. This chickpeas-like food item, known in some countries as green burgers, is being hailed by luminaries such as the Egyptian-born culinary anthropologist Claudia Rodin as the best in the world. Yasser Hakim looks at its importance for Egyptians and how it is cooked.
It's a common scene every morning. Falafel sandwiches, or in plates with beans, are the main meal to start the day for Egyptians, and it's called ta'amiyya in Egypt.
I eat it every day. Every day. I come here for years for the dish of falafel with beans.
It's my first choice. I don't think twice about what to have for breakfast every day. You eat the falafel with beans. It's delicious and affordable.
Falafel originated in Egypt over 200 years ago. It then spread to Lebanon, Syria and Yemen, each adding their own distinct flavors to the mix.
It's heavy with protein, so it keeps you full and energetic all day. Falafel is also the cheapest food item. Therefore, it's the main dish for most Egyptians every day.
Falafel is not so hard to cook. It consists of beans and a vegetable mix.
You put onion, garlic, parsley, coriander with green vegetables, then you add squashed beans. You can then form the resulting paste in any shape you want and then fry it in oil. You can add hot sauce if you want it spicy. Some people buy the paste and fry the falafel at home.
Those protein rings have become popular internationally, and they're cooked in different ways.
There's the long falafel, looks like kebab. There's the round donut ones, which are the most popular, and you can have spicy and stuffed falafel too. Other countries add hummus or eggs to the mix instead of squashed beans.
Whenever you visit Egypt, the ta'miyya or falafel should be the #1 item on your bucket list. And for a true Egyptian experience and flavor, you should buy it from one of the small shops here in the streets, not from a fancy restaurant. Yas Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
A South African self-taught visual artist is taking the world by storm. Enoch Mlangeni is making a name for himself while using an unusual medium. His portraits of famous people have been making the rounds on social media. Here is CGTN's Alexandria Majala with more.
Enoch Mlangeni's passion for art is undeniable. When he couldn't afford art supplies, the artist found an alternative medium in coffee.
Art to me, it's everything. Art to me is my life. It's who I am. It is something that defines me. And being able to realize my talent and being able to practice it means a lot to me. It's a gift that I can never exchange with anything.
The 27-year-old stumbled on this art form when he spilled coffee on a piece of art and could not get the stain out. His portraits of famous people such as Trevor Noah and internationally acclaimed DJ Black Coffee have gone viral on social media.
Coffee is a messy medium. You can do a lot of mistakes while you're working with it, but it teaches you something about art, that each and every mark is important when you're doing art. There is no right mark, there is no wrong mark, but you can always turn a mistake into something beautiful.
Mlangeni's love for art goes beyond coffee. He has dreams of going to art school and is currently working on raising the money through his art. His latest piece is one of South Africa's newly elected President, Cyril Ramaphosa.
As the new President of South Africa, we've been having so many issues in South Africa. And we hope that as he's the new president, he will bring some changes, as he calls himself the new dawn. So we really hope that this is indeed the new dawn, because we have so many issues in South Africa, the high unemployment rate.
Social media has helped Mlangeni overcome the lack of access to galleries and collectors that come with living in a township like Sasolburg. The artist's portraits and paintings cost between $800 and $1,200 respectively. He's putting aside a portion of his sales for the arts center he wants to start in his neighborhood. It will contain a studio where he can work and exhibit alongside other artists. Alexandria Majala for CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live on CGTN. We've got your sports news coming up after the break. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial. Here's what's ahead. Riyad Mahrez and Algeria's Desert Foxes prepare for AFCON kickoff in Doha.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Let's talk a bit of football, and let's begin at the Women's World Cup, where Nigeria's Super Falcons claimed their first win of the tournament on Wednesday afternoon with a 2-0 win over the Democratic Republic of Korea in Grenoble. Now, the West Africans came off a 3-0 loss to Norway in their opening tie, but they were soon ahead when defender Kim Do-yeon knocked the ball into her own net right before the half-hour mark. The African champions then made it safe in the 75th minute when former Liverpool and Arsenal ladies forward Asisat Oshoala rounded off the keeper to score the second. Nigeria's next faces host France in their final group game, needing a win to progress. But Thomas Dennerby's side could also advance as one of the best third-place teams. Algeria's national football team have been rounding off its preparations for Africa Cup of Nations in Doha, boosted by its main star, Riyad Mahrez. Jamel Belmadi's side drew 1-1 with Burundi in a friendly on Tuesday as they hold camp in the Qatari capital. The Desert Foxes have been buoyed by Manchester City's Mahrez, who says he is happy with how preparations have been going. The North Africans are drawn with Kenya, Senegal, and Tanzania in Group C. They kick off their tournament against the Harambee Stars on June the 23rd.
Yes, all is going well with the coach, thankfully.
The 2002 World Cup quarterfinalists have yet to win the Continental Football Showpiece. They will be a strong contender, sitting top of the FIFA rankings for Africa. Mahia Matua now reports.
The 2002 Africa Cup of Nations runners-up converged at the seaside tourist resort of Sali Portudal with 20 of the 25 team players called up on hand. Aside from light training sessions and game review, the gathering was a last chance to be together on home soil before the journey to Egypt. Despite an arduous season behind them, the players are ready for the task ahead.
We have a short-term objective, which is to be well prepared. It's true that a season has just passed, and this will be the first Africa Cup of Nations to be held in June. So it is going to be a long season for everyone. But the idea right now is to recover and work well.
We are happy to return home, see our fans and the Senegalese people before leaving for AFCON. It has been a very long season. We try to rest because an entire season is very long, especially after the World Cup. I believe each of us has done well this season at club level, and coming back in great shape is very good for us.
Senegal are seen as a genuine contender for the Continental Trophy, boosted by their place at the top of the African FIFA rankings in 2018. Even at home, many believe they stand a good chance of delivering in Egypt.
Senegal is always considered a top contender before competitions they take part in. This year too, we have the right players. All we have to do now is to form a solid and mentally ready team. This will enable us to achieve a very good result. This African Cup will be very tight with many good teams, so the mindset is very important.
The Lions of Teranga are slotted in Group C with Algeria, Kenya and Tanzania. The side received the flag from President Macky Sall last Friday before jetting off to Spain for camp ahead of the tournament. Mahia Mutua, CGTN.
And Serbian forward Luka Jovic was officially presented as a Real Madrid player on Wednesday in a ceremony at Madrid's Estadio Santiago Bernabeu following his move to Spain from Eintracht Frankfurt. The 21-year-old said he is the happiest man in the world following the move to the Spanish Giants. Media outlets in Spain are reporting that the deal was completed for nearly $70 million. Can you believe it? Jovic has scored 17 goals this season in the Bundesliga and 10 more in the Europa League. Well, it is now less than 100 days to the Rugby World Cup in Japan. A clock counting down to the start of the first match was unveiled on Wednesday in Tokyo. Now, the tournament will feature 20 teams and 48 matches spread across 12 venues. It starts on the 20th of September with the finals to be played on the 2nd of November in Yokohama. Host Japan will be making their 9th consecutive appearance in the Rugby World Cup with the aim of reaching the quarterfinals for the first time.
This is the very first Rugby World Cup to be held in Asia, and the organizing committee has been working on the preparation with an even greater sense of commitment.
World Rugby awarded the hosting rights to Japan 10 years ago, recognizing the clear and compelling opportunity to unlock rugby's potential in Asia, the world's most populous and youthful continent.
Meanwhile, the 2007 Rugby World Cup winner, Brian Habana, also spoke on his side's chances in Japan. The former Springbok winner said that he believes that inconsistency remains an issue for the side, adding that the title could go to any of the top 7 sides in the world.
Again, inconsistency has probably been their biggest foe, but heading into this World Cup, I think they're together for quite a while, and again, that game against New Zealand first up is going to be one really exciting game to watch. So I'll be packing my Springbok jersey and supporting this team, and knowing that they're potentially one of the sides in the World Cup that everyone will be hoping don't peak, because, and again, like they showed in Wellington last year, they definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Well, that's it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. For the team, I'm Richard Nta saying thank you so much for watching, and we will be right back here, same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.